Welcome to Last Generation Audio Magazine, your source for Bible-centered truth in a turbulent world. Here we share compelling articles that reveal God's love, expose deception, and prepare people for the soon return of Jesus. You are listening to Volume 35, Issue 6.
From Slavery to Christian Service. The Extraordinary Life of Humble Nigerian Bishop Samuel Ajayi Crowther by Samson Fideme. Wars raged between tribes. Fulani slave raiders descended from the north. Portuguese dealers waited along the coast. Amid this violent convergence stood a 12-year-old boy, Ajayi, whose life was about to change forever. In 1821, Ajayi and his entire village were captured by Fulani raiders. Alongside his family, he was forced into bondage and exchanged through a chain of brutal, profit-driven hands before being sold to Portuguese slave traders. The conflict and illegal commerce had reduced a royal descendant, the grandson of King Abiodun, to human cargo. Ajayi himself recounted the ordeal in a now famous letter he wrote in 1837 to Reverend Williams Jowett, then the secretary of the Anglican Church Missionary Society. I suppose sometime about the commencement of the year 1821, I was in my native country, enjoying the comforts of father and mother, and the affectionate love of brothers and sisters. From this period I must date the unhappy blessed day, which I shall never forget in my life. While the Fulani tribe were endeavoring to disentangle themselves from the ropey shrubs, they were overtaken and caught by the enemies with a noose of rope thrown over the neck of every individual, to be led in the manner of goats tied together under the drove of one man. In many cases, a family was violently divided between 3 or 4 enemies, who each led his away to see one another no more. So began the tumultuous yet remarkable journey of a boy from Osogun in Yorubaland, present-day western Nigeria, who would rise from captivity to become the first African to be consecrated as an Anglican bishop. Providential Rescue. Ajayi's grim journey across the Atlantic never reached its dreadful destination. As the Portuguese slave ship sailed toward the Americas, it was intercepted by a British naval vessel enforcing the recently passed anti-slavery laws. The Royal Navy had begun patrolling the West African coast, capturing illegal slave ships and liberating those aboard. The rescued captives were taken to Freetown, Sierra Leone, a settlement established for freed slaves. There, young Ajayi found himself in an entirely new world. Though the trauma lingered, this unexpected deliverance marked a decisive turn in his life. A new identity. In Sierra Leone, Ajayi encountered Christian missionaries from the Church Missionary Society and received formal education for the first time. In gratitude for his freedom, he embraced the Christian faith and was baptized in 1825, taking the name Samuel Crowther after a prominent CMS official. Later he wrote, "About the 3rd year of my liberation from the slavery of man, I was convinced of another worse state of slavery, namely, that of sin and Satan." In 1829, he married a fellow Sierra Leonean rescued from a slave ship, Asano, Susan Thompson, who became a lifelong partner in his ministry. Ajayi's remarkable gift for languages and sharp intellect quickly set him apart. While many other freed African slaves turned their attention to trade, he devoted himself to education, becoming the first student of the newly established Fora Bay College in Freetown, the first Western-style university in West Africa. His academic and missionary promise soon caught the attention of British mission leaders who, following his leading participation in the 1841 Niger expedition, selected him for further study in England. There he trained for the ministry. In 1843, he was ordained as a deacon and a year later as a priest. Upon his return to Sierra Leone, Crowther resumed his missionary work and made a vital contribution to academics at Fora Bay Institute. There, he taught Greek and Latin, an exceptional achievement, and brought mastery of English and African languages to his classroom. His example undoubtedly inspired others, bridging educational traditions and laying groundwork for an indigenous African clergy. Pioneer missionary. In his journal entry dated September 30th, 1851, Crowther wrote, "For Zion's sake will I not hold my peace, and for Jerusalem's sake I will not rest, until the righteousness thereof go forth as brightness, and the salvation thereof as a lamp that burneth." Isaiah 62:1. As part of the Church Missionary Society's Niger expeditions, Crowther ventured deep into the interior, where he was once shipwrecked and stranded for months upriver after the wreck. During that period of enforced isolation, he devoted himself to studying the Nupe language and began exploring mission outreach to the Nupe and Hausa peoples, laying the groundwork for the Niger mission. In one of these expeditions, he was reunited with his mother and sister, who embraced the Christian faith and were baptized. Ajayi preached in Yoruba, Igbo, Nupe, and Hausa, often switching between languages to meet people where they were. He also helped develop written forms of the Igbo and Hausa languages. A humble visionary. In 1864, history turned a corner. The Church Missionary Society consecrated Samuel Ajayi Crowther as the first African Anglican bishop. However, long before donning his episcopal robes, he had begun a quieter but perhaps more lasting revolution: Bible translation. At the time, Yoruba was primarily oral, rich in poetry, proverbs, and song, but lacking a fixed written form. To give the Word of God to the Yoruba people, the language first needed standardization and structure. Crowther took on the task amidst many setbacks and difficulties, including the devastating loss of a painstakingly compiled collection of Yoruba terminologies during one of his missionary journeys. Undeterred, he began the work anew, drawing from his deep cultural memory and relentless commitment until a functional written standard emerged. His conviction was clear. The sword of the Spirit, the Bible, placed in the hands of the congregations in their own tongue, will do more than all our preaching, teaching, and meetings of so many years put together. His determined linguistic efforts opened the way for Yoruba to be used not only in religious instruction, but also in formal education, literature, and administration. Despite his elevation as the first African Anglican bishop, Crowther remained profoundly humble. He saw his position not as a personal accolade, but as a call to serve both God and his people. An enduring legacy. Crowther's translations were not just religious texts, but tools of literacy, empowering thousands to read and write in their mother tongue. His mission stations along the Niger became centers of both Christian witness and African autonomy, although they scarcely survived colonial structures and internal church politics at the time. Still, Crowther remained faithful. He endured marginalization, political interference, and betrayal, all with grace and resolve. He continued to preach, teach, and translate until his death in 1891. Today, millions still read the scriptures in the Nigerian languages he helped shape, and churches across Nigeria stand as living testaments to the seeds he planted along the Niger. Samson Fideme writes from Osun, Nigeria. He and his wife Juliet run Advent Family Missions Nigeria, Africa. Follow their ministry on Facebook.
Thank you for listening to Last Generation Audio Magazine. For more of our timely and biblical resources, including our print and digital editions, visit our website at lastgen.net and follow us on Facebook and Instagram.